Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're opening up a file that is, honestly a bit different for us.
It is, yeah.
We're looking at a biography, a full life story, one that spans over half a century. And usually when you see a timeline that long, filled with fame, public appearances.
Millions of photos.
Exactly. You're thinking about a rock star. Or maybe, I don't know, a head of state.
Someone who defined an era.
Right. But today, the subject of our biography isn't human. We're doing a deep dive into the life of the orca, known to the world as Lolita.
Or, as she was known to many others, and this is important, Tokitae.
It's a really unique case study, isn't it? Because on one hand, she was arguably one of the most famous animals on the planet.
For 50 years, yeah. If you went to Miami, you knew who she was.
But looking through this stack of sources, articles, reports, historical records, what really jumps out is how little the average person actually knew about her.
About the individual.
Yes. Not the show, not the splash, but the actual being.
That's what got me. You see the headlines, especially around her passing last year, and it's all very surface level. But when you actually lay out the timeline, when you look at where she came from, who her family was, the specific reality of her daily life, I mean, the context just changes completely.
It really does. And I think that's our mission for this deep dive. We're not here to, rehash the arguments or the politics.
No.
We're here to tell her story, to explain her history from the very beginning for someone who might have heard the name Lolita, but knows really nothing about who she actually was.
So where do we start? The basics.
Let's start with the basics, because the numbers here are kind of hard to wrap your head around. The big one for me was 57. She was roughly 57 years old when she died.
It's just a staggering number for an animal in that situation.
I mean, think about that span of time, 1970 to 2023. The world completely reinvented itself, 3 or 4 times over in that period?
At least.
And she was there in that one spot for almost the entire duration.
It really sets the stage for a very complex conversation. There's a duality to her existence that comes through in every single page of these notes.
A duality? How so?
Well, she was captured as a calf toddler, really, and she lived this double life. To the public, she was a performer, but biologically, she was a southern resident killer whale. And that's not just a label.
Right.
It's a specific culture, a specific lineage. It's a legacy that she carried with her the whole time.
And speaking of labels, names, she had more than one, which I didn't realize until I dug into this.
The names are so important. They almost tell the story for us.
So let's start with the one most people know, the one on the tickets, Lolita.
Lolita. That was the name given to her when she arrived at the Miami Seaquarium. And the source material actually gives us the etymology, or at least the one they used.
Okay.
In that context, the notes say it's Spanish for strong woman.
Strong woman, which, spoiler alert, turned out to be an incredibly accurate descriptor, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. She had to be ironclad to survive what she did, incredibly resilient.
But that wasn't her first name.
No. If you look at the records from her capture, and the people who still view her as a wild being, they use Tokitae.
And I want to get this right. It's a Salish name.
Yes, Coast Salish. It represents her roots in the Pacific Northwest. It's pronounced Tokitae.
Tokitae. Okay. And what does that translate to?
It means nice day.
Nice day. Wow, that hits differently than strong woman, doesn't it?
It really does.
It feels lighter.
It captures that image of a young whale in the wild, doesn't it? Before the trauma, before the tank. And there's actually a third name mentioned in the records, her indigenous name, Skelichelteno.
So right off the bat, you have these layers. The indigenous spirit, the wild calf named Nice Day, and the captive survivor named Strong Woman.
Exactly.
And physically, we need to ground this for you listening, because when you see her in the tank, the scale can be so deceptive.
It really can.
But looking at her stats from 2004, she was massive.
A powerhouse. We're talking 7,500 pounds.
And 20 feet long.
20 feet.
That's the length of a big pickup truck. Just pure muscle. And you mentioned she was a southern resident. For someone who isn't a marine biologist, why does that distinction matter so much?
It matters immensely. Southern residents are a unique population of orcas. They're incredibly family-oriented. They have their own culture, their own dialect.
And they stay with their mothers their whole lives?
For life. Even the huge adult males. It's a strictly matriarchal society. You don't leave the pod.
So we know who her family was.
We know exactly who her mother was, a whale named Ocean Sun.
Ocean Sun. That sounds almost mythological.
She practically is in that community. And Tokitae had a half-sister, born way back in 1952, named Tsunami.
Wait, 1952, that just highlights how long-lived these families are.
Exactly. They have history, they have memory. So when we talk about her being taken, you have to understand the gravity of it. We
Yeah.
aren't just moving an animal from A to B.
No.
We're severing a bond that evolution designed to last for 60, 70, maybe 80 years.
Which brings us to the day that bond was broken, August 8th, 1970, Penn Cove, Washington.
A day that, lives in infamy in the conservation world.
I think for a lot of people, myself included, the story kind of starts when she arrives in Miami. You picture her already in the pool. But the capture itself, it was chaotic. She was just a kid.
She was about 4 years old, a toddler, still completely dependent on that family structure we just talked about. She would have been swimming right alongside Ocean Sun.
And she wasn't the only one taken that day. This wasn't a straggler. This was a roundup.
It was an industrial operation,
Yeah.
and the source lists the others captured with her. This is a haunting roll call.
Who were they?
Lil Nika, Ramo 4, Wally, Clovis, Chappie, Jumbo, and a male named Winston.
It sounds like a class roster.
It basically was. They took a whole generation. And here's where the sources gave me a real aha moment, something I had never connected before.
Oh.
The notes highlight a specific connection to that orca, Winston.
Winston. Why him?
Because genetic analysis suggests it's very possible she was related to him. And if she was, that opens up this massive what if. Because Winston, unlike Tokitae, went on to have offspring in captivity.
Oh, I see where this is going. So she might have had family in other tanks? Family she never met?
Exactly. This blew my mind when I mapped it out. If Winston was her kin, she had a huge network of captive-born relatives.
Yeah.
Nieces, nephews, grandnieces.
That she never knew existed.
Never. The list is extensive. You're talking about whales like Kalina, Baby Shamu 2, Keat, Keto, Tuar, Skyla.
I recognize some of those. Those are SeaWorld whales.
Right. And it goes on. Kalia, Hainlin, Aiden, Victoria, and more. Whales living in Orlando, San Antonio, San Diego, performing in shows just like she was.
That adds a whole other layer of tragedy. She was cut off from her past, from Ocean Sun, but she was also isolated from this potential family spread out across the country.
Completely disconnected from her own bloodline. She was on an island.
So let's talk about that island. She leaves Penn Cove, arrives at the Miami Seaquarium. Now, the popular image of her for the last few decades was of the loneliest whale. But that wasn't always the case, was it?
Not initially, no. When she first arrived in the 70s, she wasn't the only orca there. She lived with a male named Hugo.
Hugo, okay.
Yeah.
And was he from her god?
He was also a southern resident, captured earlier. And this is a part of the history that often gets glossed over. They weren't just tank mates. They were partners. The source mentions they conceived an unknown number of calves together.
I did not know that. I've never seen anything about Lolita having calves.
Because none of them made it.
None?
No. Unfortunately, the records state clearly that none survived. So she went through that whole process multiple times, but never got to be a mother.
That is just heavy. So she's in this tank, she's losing her calves, and then she loses Hugo, too.
Hugo died in 1980. And I really need you to pin that date in your mind. 1980.
Okay, so she passed away in 2023. Hugo died in 1980.
Do the math.
That means for 43 years, over 4 decades, Lolita was the sole orca in that tank.
43 years without seeing another member of her own species.
I know the notes say she had Pacific white-sided dolphins with her, and I'm sure she bonded with them, but...
It's just not the same. It's like a human living with, very smart dogs for 40 years. You can have affection, you can have a bond, and the sources do say she was close to the dolphins and her trainers.
Right.
But you don't have a peer. You don't have someone who speaks your language. The profound isolation for an animal with a brain that complex, it's hard to fathom.
It really redefines what strong woman means, doesn't it? It's not just physical, it's a mental endurance test.
Absolutely. And we have to talk about the physical environment of that test. Because you can't talk about Lolita without talking about the whale ball.
The tank. The source is pretty blunt about it. It just is very small and old.
It was infamous, the smallest orca tank in North America. And what's frustrating reading the history is the pattern of broken promises. The source explicitly states that the park's owners, and there were a few over the decades, continually said they would build a larger tank.
But they never did.
Never did. Decades went by, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Promises were made, but the concrete stayed the same.
It's like time stopped for her in 1970, but then things did start to change recently, right, in the last couple of years?
March 2022, this was the major shift. A new operator, the Dolphin Company, purchased the aquarium. And this is where the story takes a sharp turn.
Okay.
As part of their new license to operate, a condition was set. Lolita and her dolphin companions were no longer allowed to be seen by the public.
So she was retired. No more shows, no more loud music.
Correct. She went into retirement. And for the first time in a very long time, there was a genuine, tangible plan on the table to move her, not just talk.
The sea pen.
The sea pen. The idea was to take her back home, not to release her into the wild, she wouldn't have survived that, but to a netted-off sanctuary in her home waters.
Where she could feel the ocean, hear her family.
Exactly. Feel the current, maybe even communicate with her pod if they passed by. And this wasn't just a fantasy. There was serious money behind it.
Right. I saw the NFL owner, Jim Irsay, was involved.
Yeah, donors, engineers, logistics. Work was actually being done. And that's the part that just hurts the most, reading this. It felt like the finish line was right there.
So close. It wasn't a pipe dream anymore. But time. Time had other plans.
August 18th, 2023.
The day she died.
Yeah. It was sudden in the grand scheme of things.
She was 57. The source says she was estimated to be the oldest orca in captivity at that time.
She outlived almost everyone. She outlived Hugo by 43 years. She outlived the promises of a new tank. She almost outlived the entire era of captivity as we knew it.
What actually happened at the end? Do we know the medical cause?
We do. The notes list the official causes, and they're what you might expect for an older mammal in those conditions. Chronic health issues, specifically renal disease,
kidney failure,
and pneumonia. Her body just, it gave out.
After all that time.
But again, the resilience to even get to 57 with those conditions.
Yeah.
She fought for a very, very long time.
It's incredible. You know, when we started, I said I wanted to understand who she was. And looking at all these facts, the family lost, the potential family never met, the partner lost, the calves lost, the decades alone, it's just a lot to process.
It is. But it's so important to see that whole picture. It's easy to just see the headline, "Whale dies before release," but the reality was a day-to-day existence of endurance.
So what's the takeaway when we look back at the life of Tokitae, of Lolita? What does it all mean?
I think it comes back to that duality that we talked about at the start. She was a bridge between two worlds, whether she wanted to be or not.
The wild and the captive.
On one side, you have Tokitae, daughter of Ocean's Sun, a wild creature. On the other, you have Lolita, the performer, who spent 53 years in a tank in Miami.
And she was both. You can't separate them.
She was both. Her life really documents a specific era of our history. How we viewed animals, how we used them, and how our ethics slowly began to shift. Maybe too late for her, but her story absolutely accelerated that shift.
It really makes you think about those names again. Nice day versus strong woman.
It does, and that's the question I'm left with, and maybe it's one for you to think about too.
What's that?
She was given the name Tokitae, nice day at birth. It implies ease, nature, happiness. Then she was given the name Lolita, strong woman in captivity. Given everything we've just discussed, 43 years alone, waiting for a sea pen that came right at the very end, which name actually defined her life more?
Wow. Was she the nice day that was stolen, or was she the strong woman who refused to give up?
I don't know the answer.
That's a question that is going to stick with me. It's a tough story, but one that really needed to be told in full. Thank you for walking us through it.
Of course.
And thank you all for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.